Hello, this is Trevor. I have been asked to do a replay review for Ejew on East. He is a dark green. So really what this is meant to be is to look at what's going on from a analysis perspective and to better serve as a guide for new players if people wish to review. So early on, your choice of going with a mix of solar and wind is perfectly fine. On this map, wind average is 8. That's actually fairly good for wind. What I would recommend is instead of going for 2 wind and then additional solar before the lab, you would either go 1 solar and then into 1 more solar after the max. And then into the lab and then build wind, rather than doing it this way. It's not that if you are core, the factory takes about commander's length to build a wind turbine to start queuing up units. Regarding your walk time, the amount of time that you spent walking your commander, you've actually done really good. Your choice of bots, by the way, on this map, Ejew, is perfectly fine, as the terrain is fairly hilly. If I were to select the commander and press F2, you can see bots can go everywhere. Whereas if I were to select the vehicles, you can see they can't get to certain points, especially that forward max. They would have to go basically like this to your enemy, or this, so, or up here. Well, not through pink, just not through the pink, basically. This is actually a fairly interesting choice, not a bad one, getting your commander up and running, but what I would recommend is to have the commander finish the building and then simply go away. This, I would say, is a mistake. What you should be doing, and this is a map-specific theme, by the way, map size, importantly, you should be working on getting a constructor a little bit early. Second constructor early. You can go double constructor on this map, for example, and to ensure that your factory is boosted because you want to spend your metal. Your back allies are okay. That's an interesting choice from your allies. Back player going air, actually, with an air start. That's interesting. Yeah, at this point, by the way, you really you have a lot more energy in the bank that you should be sacrificing into the constructor to get going. For your forward maxes, right, that you're taking in these 2 spots, what I would strongly consider is having an LLT at this max in particular, and maybe 1 here, if you want to have it. The reason why you want an LLT at least at the forward max is so that way when raiders come, you at least have a means of stopping them. That doesn't involve your units. Thank you. Actually, a good radar placement here. At some point in time, I would recommend getting a radar over here. In fact, when you are building this max right here, you might want to consider making a radar here. As a recommendation, you are not spending your metal effectively, and this is a mistake. Not the fact that you're making one, but the fact that you're using so little build power on it. So for construction turrets, what you should be aiming for is a energy income of at least 180 with solar, or 200 with wind. The reason why you don't want to do that here, don't want to use a single constructor here to build a constructor turret, is that it just eats a lot of time and you're leaving your factory basically unassisted at this point in time. By the way, you making a mix of wind and solar is perfectly fine, but you really want to get that construction turret out up quickly. So at this max, you might want to, by the way, back to your expansion, This mech I would strongly also consider an LLT just right here. Actually right here in particular. Just so that way the mech is covered from the front. I don't know. That might have been an accidental move order. What I would recommend, especially with these two mechs, is to also have an LLT here. The reason why, by the way, I'm recommending that you make LLTs is that your opponent is not pushing you, and you should be pushing out a little bit more. You know that within this region that there are no enemy units, so you should be a little bit more adventurous. This is a mistake, by the way. You have overbuilt construction turrets. You don't have the energy income to support it. And on top of that, you're attempting to build a advanced solar. So it's not that it really what is occurring right now is that your opponent is not pushing you. So you are able to get away with this. But just know that in higher skill levels, this overspending of build power is actually really bad. Especially considering the fact that you don't have the energy income to really sustain it at the start. And you have 1,500 mil in the bank that really should have been spent probably about the 4-man mark. You should have had an empty bar. Good job on reacting to this situation. And making sure that the Commander Rex are being picked up as quickly as possible. You should have told your allies to simply just reclaim and move forward. I'm just paying attention to other parts of the map. Why are you... This is a odd choice. In my opinion, it's not that plasma bots are bad. It's more just that I would recommend early on plasma bots aren't. It's not that they're bad. It's just that if you have grunts available, you would be better off going with rocket bots. Because of just the range advantage, and they do roughly the same damage. It's just that they do it. They take a longer reload. Commander placement here is important. Right now it is almost possible for 3 commanders to die at once. For this situation, by the way, you might want to have considered sending a res bot here. And also, don't waste your units on this again. That's something specific for res rocket bots to have handled. Regarding your eco growth, it is important to note that you have you have metal and you have a good chunk of energy, but I think you're going to eventually be growing into having too much energy. You should probably not build aim with these two afterwards. Also, if you were to look back at your back techer, you might want to have considered sending him metal for I don't know if he sent a mail to him, but you might have to have considered sending him resources. Having your commander idle like this in an unprotected area is really bad. You should have considered. You should have made a few like 1 or 2 LLTs next to each other, or something to give you early warning that something's going on. At this point in time, with one of your constructors, you should have reclaimed your basic solars by now. At the 8-minute mark. I know that this is probably a lot for you. You are using your plasmods for a good purpose. I would not have recommended degunning there, considering that your ally was right here. Just make sure to use just try to spread out your units a lot more than what you're doing right here. And don't use point orders, or if I command like this, make sure to drag out the orders. And also because of your commander being so low, you need res bots, and you should have had some probably after you switch, before you switch to, sorry, most certainly before you switch to plasma bot spam. The reason why you want res bots is because you can stick up all the reclaim that's right here. There is a ton. That's also why you shouldn't have degunned the lab. It is a good thing that you are reclaiming, by the way. There is about 1700 or 1500 reclaim right there. That's actually really good for you to be ground with the commander. You should have been building a radar also in this region when you were up here or somewhere or forward. Thank you for catching this. That's actually is a good thing that you're catching commander spacing. For reference, by the way, if you press A, that range is perfect. Is basically the radius for when your commanders die. 2 commanders will be taken out at the same time. You have units over here. You need to be a little bit more active about them because this commander death could have been better prevented. For context with this commander, by the way, they would have been better off charging into the enemy units, and you should be careful about charging your units into a dying commander. Always be careful about that. If you are ever eco growing your eco, by the way, never do this specifically because you have excess, because you're overbuilding advanced solars. Do not make advanced solars for the purpose of converting the energy into metal. And also, you do need an e-storage at this point in time because of the mechanical nature of the economy. You need to, whenever you're ordering, you really do need to spread out units. You feel free to do things like this, where you go up and down, just to better spread things out. It's a good thing that you got. Oh, that's the wrong button. It's a good thing that you got radar here. But you should be using your commander to repair or get turrets up or other things. At this point, you are overspending on energy, by the way. I would strongly have recommended that. At this point, these 6 are excess to whatever you need. You should be doing other things. Like asking for T2 from your ally, which can no longer give you T2. At this point, you really you should be splitting your army a bit and trying to get some of your units to not be in the death range of the commander. And this is another case of you're not spreading your units out enough. Your commander should be attempting to either be repairing units or moving away at this point in time. And you really do need the red spots at this point. So. With plasma bots, don't try to charge them in like you are doing with right here. What you should be doing is just engaging them, gaining them as close as possible to shoot, and then from there letting the range advantage while being on top of a hill be to your benefit. And this is why you want LOTs with your commander. It really helps for situations like this and prevents them from going worse. It's a good thing that I have an ally that was reacting though. at this point, don't leave your factory not doing something, or and don't tell your constructor to guard in this case. I find that it's not worthwhile, and don't worry about this. You'll get the metal back. By the way, your ally, I believe, recovered the commander rack. I'm not going to go back and see if he did or not, but it is likely that he did if you didn't grab it at this time. By the way, when a factory is being constructed, you can add a key to it. I would recommend pressing Alt and left clicking a constructor, just so that way you have it built. And that way, when it gets built, you at least have the T2 constructor and you can order around. By the way, this match was not over at the 33-minute mark. This match is very much over, has actually been over because of what this opponent has been doing, followed by the fact that you already controlled this amount of middle, which is the majority of middle. At all units here, they're not spaced out enough. If you're making build power for constructors, this might have been a mistake on your part and you didn't intend for it, but what I recommend is to make one constructor bot, because it's 180 build power. Okay, oh good, you're actually making them eventually. This is a bug. I am going to report that. That's not on you, by the way. God, this is really bad. Not my problem, unfortunately. This is someone else's. And I have a good timestamp at least. Don't worry about that. At this point, the match is over. Or not. Because the person didn't scout the Antunics that they needed to. This person should have nuked something that they knew. Your choice of arbiters. I would strongly recommend for an opening T2 that you do not get them, that you would go with Sheldons. This is because arbiters are very, they will target where a unit is currently and not where it will be, and that will result in a lot of misses. And what you need right now is damage going forward. If units are parked, it's perfectly fine. If units are moving, it's not fine, and for most use cases, Sheldons are just superior for what you will need in this area. If you are not using a factory, by the way, reclaim it. Also, with a T2 factory, you should get at least one of the radar bot, but you might want to also. But I would strongly recommend that you also get a jammer bot as well. Okay, good. You're using these for reclaim. Just as a heads up, by the way, Twitchers can make pyros or fiends, as well as construction turrets and the T1 lab. So if you want to make a forward lab for T1, you're perfectly fine to do so. They can also make the T1 constructor as well. So if you want to move your lab to be more forward, you're also able to do that by simply reclaiming the lab back here and making a T1 constructor and placing it up here, which might be within reason. What I would say as a criticism, by the way, I'm going to undo the drawings, is that you're not pushing this way, which would help end the game quicker. You're just pushing this way, which is... It isn't ending the game, but it is securing the win. At this point, your team has secured it fairly well, so you don't need to work any harder on this part. You need to work on actually killing your enemy. Because if they don't have access to this, they lose a fair amount of eco. And this whole region is very easy to approach at this time as well. Which is why you want to radar bot. In fact, would you even... Yeah, you even know what's roughly there in terms of scouting. And this is exactly why you don't... units charging into you like this is exactly why you don't want arbiters. It is perfectly fine that you have not gotten this geo. By the way, it's just that this geo is will always be explosive for core. For arm, you're better off being the safe geo. At this point, you really just need to be pushing in some direction, and I would recommend this way. Also, I don't know if you would have seen that, those aircraft in particular. Okay, you are starting to push there now. It's a good thing that you're spreading out, you're zoomed out this far out for the camera, by the way. At this point in time, what are you making with this constructor? Please tell me it's at least a fusion. Okay, good. And that's good ratios for the time. At this point in time, I would recommend that you reclaim your T1 plasma bots for other things. Yeah, and this... That's going to be fun for the individual. That you made a person resign, which is actually a good thing. Whenever you're doing raids like this, try to keep units spread out. Like, you would actually want to move your units like this, because you want to go for the next space, not some random max. And you want to keep moving down, not like this, but you would actually be better off going this way. By the way, Sheldons are not short-range bots. They are not melee units. Please try to exploit that advantage with Fight Command in particular. Also, because you know about air, you should be making anti-aircraft bots of some kind. At this point, I think that's all I really need to be mentioning. Feel free, you're going to want to watch this multiple times, by the way. If you have questions, post them in the comments. And thank you for watching. By the way, this will be public for everyone to see. Who is this concert person? Well, conveniently, I accidentally resulted in... I'm probably going to result in a report for people to look at for moderations. This is not a mistake, by the way. These, however, are. if you're curious, you need flak with them. Also, I like how you are diving your powers into the vehicles. That's actually really good. I don't know if I should also send this to the moderators right now, or who knows? Who cares? Yeah, I will send it to them. It is a game after all. By the way, this is the case where I would recommend from an army perspective. Now is when you would actually include a fair amount of just like a handful of arbiters. How many? This includes the number of valleys, but 10 on the map. Okay, that's actually fairly fine. It's just because when you see turrets like this, the bulwark, or yeah, so the bulwark now used to be called Doomsday. If you see turrets like this, it has a fairly good range. Arbiters are really good for dealing with it. I don't know if you've seen the T3, if you have received the T3 alert yet, but if this happens as core, I would strongly recommend getting some sumos in your base area. Don't do this when you're growing your eco. Your factory sends units out like this, and they go here first. Or sorry, here first. And you're building, sorry, no, it's right here. And your units need to get out. Always, when you're building a factory, try to keep this area clear. And also, you would, at this point, you should be reclaiming all of your basic solars if you have 2 fusions. As you're growing economy, by the way, fusions are for if you need to produce units at the same time. Unless it's the first fusion, in which case you should be heavily focusing it. Whereas afterwards, it's basically a case of, do you want to greed and grow your economy significantly quicker? In which case you will go APHIS. Otherwise, if you need the units, you would go Fusion 2 converters, Fusion 2 converters, Fusion 1 converter, Fusion 2 converters. Kind of like repeating that ratio. Or maybe it's just, yeah, roughly that ratio. At this point in time, you should also be reclaiming your T1 converters because of their inefficiency. Okay, other than that, I think that's... Oh, and also you do need an anti-nuke at this. By the 20 min after the first fusion, you should, and 2 converters, you should have queued up an anti-nuke. So, that's all. I think at this point, I don't think anything meaningful is going to occur after this point, so I'll end the recording here.